how an educated journey like Bergs, your favorite MBA, and an uneducated journey with your favorite high school dropout, I did, got to Collective Shift, a crypto startup, how we both arrived here, the pros and cons of going down a path of not going through university, not doing your MBA, not finishing school, versus going down the path of more structured learning, finishing university, doing an MBA. There's no best way to do it, right? There's pros and cons of both. Welcome back to another episode of the Ben and Bergs Show with your favorite high school dropout and your favorite MBA. Bergs, how are you?
Mate, I'm feeling awesome. How you going, lad?
I'm going good. I've only had a shitty latte this morning. I realized I don't make a good latte here in Thailand. The Americano is better though, so I need to fix that. Like it was the cup was half froth, half coffee. Like I had to spoon the froth out, and by the time I got to the coffee, like it was bang average. So I rotated into Americano.
This is the important stuff, mate.
Yeah. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about the difference of how an educated journey like Bergs, your favorite MBA, and an uneducated journey with your favorite high school dropout, I did, got to Collective Shift, a crypto startup, how we both arrived here, the pros and cons of going down a path of not going through university, not doing your MBA, not finishing school, versus going down the path of more structured learning, finishing university, doing an MBA. Because I think there's no best way to do it, right? There's pros and cons of both. And for those listening at home, maybe you have a qualification. Maybe you have a qualification in something you're not really interested in. Maybe you're currently, maybe you didn't go to university and you're doing a job you don't like and you want to do something but you don't have the qualification. Well, then I can probably share some lessons on what I've done, and then Bergs can also share some lessons on what he's done with his MBA and how we got here. So this is going to be a cracking, short, sharp comparison. Super keen to get started. Did you have anything you want to say, Bergs?
Yeah, mate. So when Ben came over to Perth, worked super hard for like 2 3/4 days, and then the last quarter we played some golf. And Ben was telling us a story about him in high school and the deal he had with his parents and how smart they were. And I found this absolutely fascinating. So, mate, why don't you tell us about when you were in school, what you decided, and the deal you had with your folks?
So, from, I guess, primary school, I've always been building businesses, very small businesses, little, sort of literally bedroom operations, right? My first proper business was an iPhone repair business. I shared a bedroom with my brother. I had bunk beds with him. We lived in a small, town in Launceston. Launceston, a small suburb in Launceston, and fixing my friends at school's iPhones. That was the first business. Then it moved into a sportswear business. And my sportswear business was we manufactured sports uniforms and garments for sporting teams in Tasmania. And we manufactured them in China and Pakistan, brought them over. So I started that when I was 15. Built that to I can't remember exact numbers. It was somewhere between 200 and 300,000 in annual revenue. I had an employee to help me. I loved it, right? It was all my life. I was doing it at school. School just wasn't for me, right? It wasn't teaching me the things I wanted to learn. I was doing, zero reconciliation. Zero was in the zero accounting software reconciliation in my finance class when we were learning manual bookkeeping. I'm I get it. We need to know this, but can you teach me how to use zero? I'm like, no, we don't teach that here. I was like, well, you can get fucked then. I'm leaving.
That's classic. You can get fucked and do my own thing.
And it just wasn't for me. All my friends were doing different stuff. During recess and lunch, I was just working on my business. They're like, what the fuck are you doing, man? We're going to the park and, smoking weed or whatever the fuck they were doing. I was like, nah, man, I've got shit to do. Anyway, I was like, this school is for me. I'm done. I'm over it. Went to my parents. My mum's a school teacher, right? So this was going to be hard. I want to quit school. It's not for me. This is what's going on in school. I'm not learning what I need to learn. And mum was I don't think so. I think, you should finish, get a qualification, da. And dad was more open to it. Dad was like, okay, I get it. You want to do this? We're happy to back you, but you have to achieve a result. If you don't achieve that result, you're going back to school. I was like, okay, I can be on board with that. So he said, by this time next year, and I had an advisor at the time. His name was Stan. He knew my parents. And we brought Stan into it, and he was going to be keeping me accountable. By a year's time, this time the following year, this was when I was 16. This time next year, you have to basically earn this amount of income, and I think it was $20,000 or $30,000. You have to pay board at this rate. You have to earn this, and you have to basically pay your way to do this on your own. If you don't do it, you go back to school. If you do it, awesome, good on you, off you go. And that was the bet. Well, that was the trade. handshake, done. That sort of next few weeks, I quit school and just grinded, built the business up, was able to pay my board, pay my wage, and that was not shortly after I got into crypto and joined the other crypto business that I was part of, sold that sportswear business, and then been on a journey of like building businesses with no real qualification, but learning on the job. So my first real entry into crypto space was as an operations marketing person, and another crypto media business. I then all of a sudden had like a team below me, and we're like building a product and like online products and marketing operations, scaling, all this sort of legal, PR, all of it. Learned all of it on the job. Had no idea what I was doing at all until I started and just got amongst it and have been learning on the job. Made a shitload of mistakes, lost money, didn't pay superannuation for a year because we didn't know you needed to pay superannuation. Like forgot to do stuff, like weren't registered as a business, didn't know you had to do that. Like went through all the mistakes you could possibly think of, made all the mistakes, but I learned so much faster. It was super stressful, but, I found me by hands-on learning, I've learned a lot versus, potentially doing, a business course where, and not necessarily MBA, but business in university, where you get in a heap of debt. It's mostly practically like theoretical, a lot of book work, and I don't do reading. I can't learn and read. That's just not how I learn. I learn by on the job, and that's how I sort of got into Collective Shift. So my mix of startups, working in business, working in crypto, learning a bunch of stuff, all colliding to start Collective Shift 2.5 years ago.
That's phenomenal, man. And you learn a lot. You get advisors amongst you. You jump in the deep end. You're like, I'm going to do this now. And you just keep going till you get good.
Yeah, advisors is a big one. Yeah, you're right. Like that's where I've learned a lot from. I do a lot. Like I listen every like waking second I'm not working. I'll listen to a podcast. Where I try and read books when I can. YouTube videos. I'm a part of Entrepreneurs Organization. I learned so much through that. I go to in like real world courses. I've traveled to the US to do like marketing courses, public speaking courses. I do a lot of like in-person stuff. I love that. And then I have probably 5 to 6 advisors helping me. And if you want to know those advisors, we did an episode on this on how I spent $55,000 on advisors last year. That is episode number 32. You can go listen to that if you want to know who I spent advisors on. But I learn from other people, Bergs. I'm definitely not the smartest guy, but I bring in the smartest people to help me make the smartest decisions.
That's the thing, like knowing your limitations and that self-awareness piece, but then bringing in those people and actually taking their advice and actioning it. I think that's why you succeed.
That's why I succeed. Now, the downside to what I did is it's not structured and you miss things and there's gaps and you make a shitload of mistakes because you just honestly don't know what you're doing. So the downside of this is you don't pay superannuation for a year and you get fined and you learn from that. Or you don't know the right strategy or the right decision-making framework, or you don't know the marketing is a big one that is very psychological, and you really need to know human behavior and different strategies and pricing strategies and mental frameworks and like all this sort of stuff you don't get at all. So one of the best things about how Bergs and I work together is that he has a complete different path to where we have, and his skill sets and his knowledge is completely it's not different in a sense, but the way he thinks about the problems we have are completely different because of what he's been through with the MBA. And that is so, so valuable that I would like to do an MBA one day. Not anytime soon because I don't have any time to do it. But Bergs, talk us through how you got to Collective Shift because you went through a much different journey than I did.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking back on our golf day, you were with 3 other MBAs and you were talking at our level, which was incredibly fascinating. You're a 24-year-old bloke and you've run companies and you were asking the questions and understanding the things that we were talking about, which was just absolutely incredible to see, man. Yeah, no, there was a couple of things there was one of the course segments that you said that it was something about data, computational data, or what was it? I can't remember. What we were talking about was, so we did this data unit in our MBA, data-driven decision making, and we were talking about, I think it's linear regression. Linear regression. Like okay, fair enough. Most business people wouldn't know or understand that. Like that's a bit of an out there thing. But then when I explain it to you, like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Man, so my journey, your high school thing, that sounded very familiar with. I was entrepreneurial in high school as well, and I remember I was one of the first kids to get like a CD and DVD burner in my school. So man, I had a little side hustle. Hopefully the statute of limitations for all the copyright laws are done because I was young.
It's
So I was
7
just-
years, mate.
Man, I was burning CDs, copying them, downloading software, putting it on, and then just like selling it to everyone like $5 a pop. Had a little book, had a little register of like how much I was making. Made like a couple of grand that year, which was just heaps of money for someone that's like, 14, 15. It's incredible. And I was always buying, and I had the internet early, so I was buying and selling stuff on eBay. Like if the local shops had a clearance on some item that was like some electronic thing that was $10, I knew I could sell for 60. I'd go and buy that, go and sell it. And my path was, it was very interesting actually. Like I was very bored at school, and in year 11, they recommended, I did TE, and they recommended that I didn't do it for year 12. And then I did it for year 12, and I got a pretty decent score. I got awards, and I went on to do computer science. But the entry level for computer science was like your TER had to be 70 something, and I ended up getting like 88 point something, right? So in the end, I'm like, why even bother, right? Like it's like I could get like really bad grades and just get in. So I went on, went to uni straight away, did computer science for like a year and a half or 2 years, realized I didn't like coding, hated it, swapped to information systems. So it's more about data, designing systems, databases, managing them, pulling data out, doing manipulations on it, that kind of thing, and commercial application development. So everything apart from the coding aspect. And I left with a degree in business information systems and information system development. And that took like probably 4 years to do because I farted around a bit. Look, honestly, at uni, I was very, very arrogant. I spent most of my time at the pub. I realized the exams were 55%, and a lot of it was not mandatory to go to. So I didn't do the assignments, didn't do the tutorials, and got like 90-something% in the exam. And I was a dickhead. So graduated that. And then I never had a gap year or anything. So I was at home, I was playing like Xbox. I'd go down to like Pizza Hut, because back in the day you had like Blockbuster next door, order some pizza at lunchtime, go and grab some Xbox games, take the pizza home, smoke a bit of weed, play that shit. I was still living with the folks. Awesome. And like after like a month, my mum's like, nah, get fucked, you're getting a job. So she found me a job in like payroll in health, like a 3-month kind of thing. Smashed it in like 3 weeks. Like the job they wanted me to do. Just like automated everything in Excel, smashed it. And then stayed there for like, I don't know, another month or something. Then went to IT help desk in at the Department of Health, which was just horrendous. It was gross. Quit that within a couple of months. And then mum heard of another job from Dale, the guy I had dinner with. So I rock up to this job thing, and it's supposed to be like a data entry job 3 days a week. I sit there, and this lovely lady comes out. She goes, she'll be here in like, she's running late. Sit there 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. I'm like, fuck this. In my ill-fitting suit, 22 years old. Fiona Wood comes out in her scrubs. This is 2006, right? So the year before she was the Australian year. I'm like, fuck me, that's Fiona Wood. Holy shit. So anyway, walk into her office, and we just start nerding out about data, talking about all this stuff. She hires me. And then basically I was in the Fiona Wood Foundation from 2006 until last year. So 16 years. And the role progression from that was basically I started as data entry, but it wasn't data entry. It's like, hey, we got this system. We got a web app, a Win app, go and design it, go and roll it out. So my job was literally, you got all these 50-year-old nurses. You have to digitize everything they're doing. You have to train them and get them using the system and get the data out on the back end and give it to all the researchers. So did that for absolute years, learned how to build product, how to talk to people, how to customize things, how to be compliant, and just did different things around the business. It was whatever I wanted to do, I would bring my skill set and apply it to the business. And right up, I think 2014, I had the conversation with Fiona, because there was a pivotal moment where you have a conversation with her, and it's either, what do you want to do? Do you want to do a PhD? Do you want to go study medicine, or do you want to do something else? And mine was like, I want to do an MBA. And she's like, that's weird. All right, tell me about it. And that was at the point where we're actually opening Fiona Stanley Hospital as well. So I was involved in the commissioning there, all the setup of everything, the IT. It was huge. And by that time, we had a full digital system. I was really able to do a lot of awesome work within health. So 2015, I started my MBA. I got married in 2014, had a kid in 2015. Lots going on. MBA was a complete game changer for me. So this was like learning different languages. Like I could now speak, economics or marketing or legal, whatever it may be. And I had a much better understanding. I could apply that back to the business I was in. And I did my MBA from 2015 to 2019. And just being able to talk strategy at a higher level, and even doing things like the company directors course, being able to pitch to a board, being like, this is what you need to do. This is your responsibility. This is, how you will de-risk things, speaking their language at their level. I was able to do things that other people weren't able to do. And the top notes were implement heaps of technology, do things like, voice to text, integration, mobile development, public apps in the App Store, allowing clinicians to use their apps anywhere in the world with patient data, sending it 2 ways, with images, things that people freak out about, we were able to achieve. And I really tie that to being strategic and learning that from my MBA, being able to convince directors and executives, but also like marketing and building the demand side, and just all of these ways that people don't really think unless they've been exposed to it. Like you would have been exposed to it through Collective Shift. You have to experience it, or you have to be taught.
Yeah.
So it opened lots of doors for me, and you now feel like you belong in any room. You can have a conversation with absolutely anyone. The downside to all of this is that you are taught in a structured way. You are in a structured business, and I was in a very bureaucratic business. So I had to unlearn all of those processes that I was taught for 16 years, where it's a very fixed mindset. This is the amount of money you have for the year. You need to protect it. This is all you have. Whereas in business, it's more of a growth mindset. How do we work together? How do we grow the pie? How do we both provide each other value? And unlearning that mindset to a growth mindset was very, very hard to do.
It's really fascinating. And I think from my perspective, Bergs coming in, like there's a lot of good thinking and mental models, and as I said, strategies that Bergs has been able to bring across, whether it's like market penetration, or whether it's like brand, whether it's like who our target persona. There's been so much like strategy stuff that we've been able to work through together, when you've been able to pull on that learning, that structured learning that you've had prior, and implement it in a way where I haven't had that. If I have a problem, or I think I need to, for example, right, we need to, we need to develop a new email sequence to, take someone from a lead to a conversion. I'm just going to Google that shit and spend 4 hours learning as much as I can about it, and then I'll go and make it. Right?
Yeah.
Where Bergs, you can bring that stuff that you've already had in the past forward, through the sort of MBA and learnings you've had. So it's a different way.
Yeah, and with the MBA, they teach you in a structured way, and you're constantly looking at the latest research. You're doing business cases as well. Like things like, let's say you've got a new market development strategy. The classic one was Coke went into Spain, and all they did was copy paste. Here you go. Here's the bottles we have here. You'll get it over there. They didn't think about distribution, trucks. They were selling 2-liter bottles. Spanish people don't have big fridges. 2-liter bottles don't fit in your fridge. Like all these little things, or like Harley Davidson and the Harley Owners Group and brand love, and just learning through what other businesses have done, but applying business models to it. You learn so much, and it's absolutely incredible. And all the assignments you do, like literally for 12 weeks, you are a marketer. You have to apply those assignments to your business. I had to apply it to a service business. I even presented to my boss. It was really practical in that aspect. And then that's like your base level of knowledge when you finish. And once you've done that, then you start applying it either in your work or in your business. The other, I guess, I don't know if you really look at it as a downside, but it is expensive. It costs $60,000 to do an MBA. Yeah. So if you're doing it and you're getting a higher position, yes, you can claim the tax portion on that. But over 4 years, about $15,000 a year, $5,000 a unit. It is a lot of cash, but definitely worth it. You come out a completely different.
The last thing I'll say on the downside of my route is it's an upside if you're looking to start a business. I do think, unfortunately, still for most businesses, maybe not tech or startups, that a lot of businesses still look at your qualifications as a way to hire you. We don't at Collective Shift. I couldn't even tell you some of the qualifications that our team has. It's proof of work. You show me your work, and if it's good shit, you're hired. That's what we look at. But for a lot of other businesses, it's not that. It's qualifications first. So that can be a downside when you quit school.
But also think about the other flip side of that. So if I went for a job, my CV looks amazing, right? And I'll get the interview. But who are you really hiring? And now that was last year. And now this year, I'll have that banging CV. And I've also worked for Collective Shift, done a bunch of crazy stuff. I'm a different human. But also, Go look on the internet. Go look at the product I've built. Go look at
Yeah.
the podcast. Listen to the podcast. Listen to my communication episode. All of this distribution and proof of work. This is where people are going nowadays. Because think about interviews. They're so artificial. Like we just did the People Day for EO. You go there, you have a CV, you listen to someone, and then you're like, oh, great, I spent 20 minutes with them. I'm going to hire them. They're like, no, you don't do that. Like, that's how you make lots of mistakes. You need to be slow in hiring, fast in firing. And I think once you have proof of work and you know they can do the skill, they've already proved it, that is a very strong signal for that person.
So there's two different routes you can go down. Well, there's more than two, but like that's two perspectives. One, you can definitely make it without education. You can definitely make it with the education. I don't think it really matters where you're at. Even if you're in corporate right now, you can switch to a startup. Whether in one job you're not liking it, you can start your MBA, you can do education, or you can just go out without it.
Yeah.
There's different routes. It's not one shoe fits all.
I forgot to say as well, while I was doing my MBA, the corporate role I was in, like I would move so fast, I would have to wait for other teams to catch up and implement things. And I got very bored. So I actually started a side hustle and started consulting with Ben. So I was testing the waters, did a day here, a day there, or I'd take some annual leave from my job, do a week with Ben, then go back to my job. And that allowed me to apply all those learnings and also test what the other side of the fence was like. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can just do a little bit here and there.
Yeah, and a lot of our full-time employees actually started that way as well. Matt started as just a contractor. He was working in another business. He started writing some content for us as a contractor and then build up from there. So it's a good way to sort of just test the waters and make sure it's a good fit for everyone.
Yeah, and just reach out. The way I did it was I was a moderator in the group and then I saw some things like, can I help out? Helped him a bit for free and like, hey, I can help you more. Created my business and then it just escalated from there.
Top stuff. Awesome. Great episode. If you have any questions around that or our journeys or how we got to where we are, please, you can tweet at us or DM us on Twitter at BenSimpsonAU on Twitter and at BabybackBerg. If you haven't listened to the communication episode either, all you business owners and professionals out there wanting to upgrade your communication, I have actually done this off the back of the last episode. It has been a bit of a game changer for me. I learn a lot about how I communicate and how I should communicate. So head over there. That's episode 43, cracking episode. And if you're wanting to level up your crypto portfolio, we're now offering complimentary crypto strategy calls. You can book in a one-on-one 15 minutes with one of our team. Look at your portfolio, look at your security, make sure you're using the latest strategy, set yourself up for success because Bitcoin is primed to have a cracking next couple of years. So head over there. The link is in the description, or you can head to collectiveshift.io to check that out. And Bergs, I'll see you on the next episode.
See you next week, champions.